Well, hey guys, Pastor Jason here, one of the pastors at North Park Church here in Columbus, Nebraska, and very grateful to be bringing your life group lesson to you again for the week. And we're back in our Fearless series this week. Had a couple weeks of doing some different stuff there over the holiday season, the Christmas season, but now we're back in our Fearless series, jumping back into the story of Joshua, getting some great examples, application of fearlessness for us from that story. And this week, we are in Joshua chapter 10, verses 1 through 15. And there's a lot here, but really it's all necessary. So I really couldn't shorten it anymore. This all has to be read. So you guys get your Bibles open to Joshua 10, verses 1 through 15. I'm going to read this right now aloud, and you guys follow along in your Bibles. Okay. Excuse me. Here we go. As soon as Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard how Joshua had captured Ai and had devoted it to destruction, doing to Ai, and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and how the inhabitants of Gibeon had made peace with Israel and were among them, he feared greatly, because Gibeon was a great city, like one of the royal cities, and because it was greater than Ai, and all its men were warriors. So Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, sent to Hoham, king of Hebron, and Piram, king of Jarmuth, and Japhi, king of Lachish, and Debir, king of Eglon, saying, "Come up to me and help me, and let us strike Gibeon, for it has made peace with Joshua and with the people of Israel." Then the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, and king of Eglon, gathered their forces and went up with all their armies and encamped against Gibeon and made war against it. And the men of Gibeon sent to Joshua at the camp of Gilgal, saying, "Do not relax your hand from your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us, help us, for all the kings of the Amorites who dwell in the hill country are gathered against us." So Joshua went up from Gilgal, he and all the people of war with him, and all the mighty men of valor. And the Lord said to Joshua, "Do not fear them, for I have given them into your hands. Not a man of them shall stand before you." So Joshua came upon them suddenly, having marched up all night from Gilgal. And the Lord threw them into a panic before Israel, who struck them with a great blow at Gibeon, and chased them by way of the ascent at Beth Horon, and struck them as far as Ezekah and Makkedah. And they fled before Israel, and they were going down the ascent of Beth Horon. The Lord threw down large stones from heaven on them, as far as Ezekah, and they died. There were more who died because of hailstones than the sons of Israel killed with the sword. At that time Joshua spoke to the Lord in the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over to the sons of Israel. And he said in sight of Israel, "Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon in the valley of Ajijam." And the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, and the nation took vengeance on their enemies. Is this not written in the book of Jashar? The sun stopped in the midst of heaven, and did not hurry to set for about a whole day. There's been no day like it before or since, when the Lord heeded the voice of a man, for the Lord fought for Israel. So Joshua returned, and all Israel with him, to the camp at Gilgal. So that is an amazing story. Seriously amazing stuff. A lot happening there. So question 1, just to get things fired up, get things started. What stands out to you from this story? Go ahead and talk about that now. Okay, again, a lot there. A lot you could have discussed. To get a bit more specific, though, for question 2, where do we see God doing the miraculous in our story? Now, maybe you talked about that, maybe you didn't when you answered question 1, but let's see where we can pick out some very specific instances of God doing the miraculous in our story. Go ahead and do that now. Okay, so we clearly see God throwing the Amorite coalition into a panic. Super miraculous. God threw down large hailstones and killed everybody, killed the enemy anyway, did not kill any of his own people, but threw down large hailstones and just wiped out the Amorites. And then God made the sun stand still. The story tells us that there's never been a day like it. Super miraculous stuff going on here. So, for question 3, somebody in your group read aloud Acts 17 verses 26 and 27, and also Daniel 2:21. And then answer this question: how do these verses relate to our story? Go ahead and do that now. Okay, these verses are definitely talking about God's sovereignty in the life cycle of a people. And that's what we are seeing here. We are seeing that the allotted time for the Amorites has come to an end, and just as God created, He is destroying. Now for question 4, somebody in your group read aloud Romans 1, verses 21 through 25. Romans 1, 21 through 25. And then this question is a two-parter here. Discuss what these verses are telling us, and then discuss whether or not they concern you personally. How do you receive these verses in your heart? Do they concern you? If so, why? Go ahead and answer that question now. Okay, so we're talking about idolatry here, which is why God took out the Amorites. And it is something that we are surrounded by, entrenched in, nearly impossible to escape it. If we're being honest with ourselves, we all struggle with idolatry, which is giving divine honor to a created object rather than God. That's idolatry. So, for question 5, discuss how idolatry is encouraged in our culture, and then how you can personally glorify Christ within that struggle and within that culture. Go ahead and talk about that now. And that's your life group for this week. I hope it's been a good one. Hope there's been some great discussion, and I will be back with you next week.